The atmosphere this whole week, incredible. It's hard to describe in that stadium full of the fans and all the love. So
9:47 p.m. Sunday night in Toronto. Belinda Bencic won a single point on Sobeys Stadium. And for the first time in 7 days, 12,500 seats forgot how to breathe. The Philippine flag stopped waving midair. The chants that had rolled through the concourses since Tuesday flattened into a hum. And on the baseline, favoring her right ankle, 21-year-old Alex Eala looked up into a wall of red, white, and blue and mouthed a single word toward her people. What she said into the microphone 40 minutes later in Tagalog is the reason this video exists.
Kamusta tayo ngayon, Toronto?
6 days earlier, Eala had been lifting her first WTA title in Washington. The next morning, she woke up ranked 20th in the world. Toronto was not supposed to be a hangover. Toronto was supposed to be the encore, the first WTA 1000 in her career, where the tournament itself, not just her fans, had put her name on the poster as the 25th seed. Then the draw dropped. And something happened in the streets of the GTA that the National Bank Open did not see coming. Within hours of the bracket going public, roughly 3,100 tickets moved. That figure, reported by Now Toronto, was not spread across the fortnight.
Never expected not to have any tickets for a ground pass, which I always do.
It was concentrated on Eala's session days. Filipino families in Mississauga, Scarborough, Brampton, they did not wait to see if she would win. They bought the room. By her round of 32 match against Katie McNally, Philippine flags were hanging off pedestrian bridges outside the venue. Inside, the 12,500-seat main court was packed for a 25th seed playing in the second round, a scene the WTA 1000 circuit rarely sees for anyone below the top 10. And that is when the pushback started. Ahead of the round of 16, Belinda Bencic reportedly issued a warning that ricocheted across Facebook groups and Reddit threads. If she was walking to the line to serve, she said, the crowd did not need to cheer. She was, in her words, too old for mind games. The exact target of that quote has been reframed by aggregators. But the message landed on Filipino tennis Twitter within hours, and the etiquette purists piled on behind her. Some commentators accused Filipino supporters of not knowing tennis. Some Filipino fans, caught between pride and embarrassment, started apologizing on Reddit for their own community. The room, in other words, was already loaded before a single ball was struck. Here is what actually happened when the match began. Bencic, the 12 seed, Tokyo Olympic gold medalist, the woman who had lifted this exact trophy in Toronto back in 2015, took the first set 6-4. Then she did something colder. She took the second set 6-love. 57 points to Eala's 36. On the other side of the net stood a 21-year-old playing her fifth match in 9 days, on an ankle that had already flared in a 2-hour and 39-minute war against McNally 48 hours earlier. That is the direct factual record, and it matters because the story being sold by aggregator channels, Bencic silenced Eala, collapses the moment you compress the timeline. Monday of the previous week, Eala was preparing for a DC Open final. Sunday of that week, she was holding a trophy and rising to a career-high 20th in the world. Wednesday of Toronto week, a 3-set thriller and a compromised ankle. Sunday of Toronto week, bageled in the second set. 4 life-changing events in 6 days. Then came the visual that lit up every YouTube feed in the Philippines. Broadcast cameras panned across Sobeys Stadium in the changeover after match point, and the stands were visibly thinner. Aggregator videos launched within hours. Sobeys Stadium goes empty. Filipino fans walk out. No official tournament data has confirmed a coordinated walkout. What the footage does confirm is simpler and in some ways bigger. When Eala left, a measurable part of the crowd left with her. This was not a walkout of protest. This was proof of ownership. Those seats did not belong to the National Bank Open. Those seats belonged to her. And this is where the mainstream tennis conversation has been quietly wrong for 2 years. The people who filled Sobeys Stadium and Philippine flags were told again and again that they were a novelty. that they would fade the moment Eala hit a real ceiling. Instead, they were the first to see what the rankings only caught. Up to in August, they bought the tickets before she was seeded. They filled the bridges before she was famous. The tennis world is not discovering Alex Eala's fan base. Her fan base discovered her first, and the tennis world is finally reading the receipts. Then came the moment that reframed everything. Standing courtside after the loss, Eala turned to the sea of flags and in the on-court interview 2 nights before had already given them the line that would trend across TikTok. Someone in the crowd, she said, had told her they wanted to be Filipino for a day. In the press room that Sunday night, she went further. In Tagalog, she said, "Kahit umuulan, kahit mainit, nandito pa rin sila. Even in the rain, even in the heat, they are still here." She did not cry about the scoreline. She thanked her people in her own language on a Canadian WTA 1000 stage. The most damning validation of that crowd did not come from a Filipino commentator. It came from the woman who had just beaten her. Belinda Bencic is not a random opponent. She is a Tokyo Olympic gold medalist, a former top 5 player, a Grand Slam quarterfinalist, and a returning mother who reclaimed a WTA 1000 semifinal in the same week she ended Eala's run. When she walked into her own post-match press conference on August 9th, she was asked about the noise. Her answer, per the press transcript circulating on the r/tennis thread, was this: she never really minded it. Because, she said, when she used to play Serena Williams a couple of years ago, it sounded a lot like that. Read that again. The player who silenced Alex Eala in Toronto compared the crowd she silenced to the loudest, most iconic fan base in the history of women's tennis. That is not a compliment offered lightly by an elite European professional. That is a Tokyo gold medalist telling the tennis establishment in the most careful diplomatic language available that the atmosphere Filipino fans built inside Sobeys Stadium was on the short list of the most intimidating environments she had ever walked into. The etiquette purists lost the debate the moment Bencic opened her mouth. The 3,100 tickets are the number that should be haunting tournament directors right now because it is a business signal, not a sentimental one. A 25th seed in a diaspora city moved a WTA 1000 gate in the hours after a draw dropped. That has happened for Serena. That has happened for Osaka. It does not happen for players ranked outside the top 20. Cincinnati is next, August 11th through the 24th, pending the ankle. After that, the U.S. Open begins on August 30th in Flushing Meadows, where the Filipino-American population in the New York tri-state area dwarfs the diaspora footprint of the GTA. If Toronto was the preview, Queens is the takeover, and the WTA has a decision to make. Does it lean into loud, flag-waving, non-traditional fan bases claiming space in a sport that has spent a century policing its own silence? Or does it try to enforce the old etiquette on a market that just proved it can fill the building? Eala is the test case. Every tournament from Cincinnati to Melbourne is watching how this question gets answered. The bagel was real. The second set on Sobeys Stadium is now in the WTA archive as 6-love. Eala did not win a game after her ankle betrayed her. 24 hours later, she posted from her phone. No apology, no spiral. A short leisure trip in Toronto, she wrote, before Cincinnati. A 21-year-old giving herself one day of the city she had just conquered emotionally on the way to the next tournament on the entry list. In her presser, she told reporters she knew it might be her last time on that stadium this year, thanked the fans in the Philippines who had stayed up through the night to watch, and said she would come back stronger. From bagel to next main draw, potentially 2 days. 3,100 tickets before she was seated. Philippine flags on the bridges before the first serve. A Tokyo gold medalist comparing the noise to Serena. And a 21-year-old standing on a compromised ankle telling 12,500 people in Tagalog that they showed up in the rain and in the heat. Toronto did not go silent because Alex Eala lost. Toronto went silent because the building, the broadcast, and the tour all realized at once that a young woman from Manila had become the only reason those 12,000 500 seats were sold in the first place. So here is the real question for the comments. If Cincinnati and Flushing Meadows get the same Filipino takeover the GTA just delivered, is that the future the WTA embraces or a problem the tour tries to quietly fix? Stake your claim below. If you were one of the ones flying the flag before the seedings came out, before the DC trophy, before the 20th ranking, this channel is the room for you. Subscribe and stay in it. There is a community here that saw this coming, and the next chapter starts the moment she walks into Cincinnati.